today we'll be starting a new unit called Systems of Linear Inequalities, and our lesson today is a review lesson on solving a system of linear equations by graphing, and then we'll use what we learned previously in graphing linear equations to help us then solve systems of linear inequalities. So let's get started. You'll need your graphing calculator with you. The system we're going to be looking at today is y equals x plus 4 and 2y is equal to x plus 3. Now, step 1, looking at our equations, you ask yourself, are they both in the y equals mx plus b format? Now, mx plus b can be rearranged, but you do want to isolate that y. The reason why we like it in the mx plus b format, because then we can recognize some of the properties that we've learned previously. Remember that m is the slope of your line, and b is the y-intercept of your line. And those give you some important information when you start graphing. So when I'm looking at these, I can see that yes, equation 1 here is already isolated, but equation 2 is not. So we're going to follow down this way, and we will look at rewriting our equations. In this case, we're just rewriting the one equation. So we'll leave equation 1 as is, y equals x plus 4, just to keep track of it. But our other equation, 2y is equal to x plus 3, is not isolated. So in order to do that, we need to use our algebra rules. I can see that the 2 is attached to the y through multiplication. So to undo that, opposite operation would be to divide both sides by 2. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other side. 2 divided by 2 gives you a 1y. And we're left with x over 2 plus 3 over 2. And that's fine, you can graph it like that, or if you want to see what's going on with your slope, you might want to rearrange it. It looks exactly the same as 1/2 x plus 3/2. And then you can see that your slope is 1/2 and your y-intercept is 3 over 2. Now at this point, you can take out your graphing calculator, and we're going to insert both of these equations into the y equals part. So we've done step 1, now we can move on to step 2, now that we've rewritten the equations. So in your graphing calculator, you're going to go into the y equals menu, and you should see all the different places where you can put in your equations. So we'll put in the first one, which was x plus 4, and we'll put that under y1, and then y2, we've rearranged that, to 1/2 x plus 3 over 2. I like to put my fractions in brackets. Plus 3 over 2. Now at this point, in order to see the equations on your graph, you can either click graph, or what I like to do is I go to zoom 6, and if you look down here, 6 says standard, and that's going to center your graph at 0, 0, and your window is going to go from -10 to 10 in the x and in the y, and that gives you your standard graphing window. And then if you need to zoom in or zoom out accordingly, or change your window accordingly, at least you know where you've started. So I'll hit zoom 6 here, and you can see our two graphs. But which one's which? Well, you can go and look and see, okay, my y-intercept is 4 for my first equation. My y-intercept for the second equation is 3/2 or 1.5. So you can see that, but you can also hit trace on your graphing calculator. And then the cursor, you can see it blinking up here. and you can see in the top corner that that cursor is blinking on equation 1, and if I arrow down here, then it'll jump to equation 2. Now in order to actually complete step 2, we need to go ahead and do step 3. Now what does step 3 ask us to do? Oops. Here we go. Label the x and the y-intercepts. Well, we need those x and y-intercepts in order to plot them on the graph, and then we can label them. So here are your instructions. I'm going to go through those step by step with the graphing calculator, and then we can move on to step 4 once we have those 2 lines plotted on your graph. So we're doing a sketch here, right? So you're going to have to label your axes and do a sketch, but even though we're doing a sketch, you still need the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So let's get our calculator out again. And for that first equation, we'll go back to y1. It's actually sitting right on the y-intercept already. How do I know? Because your y-intercept is where x is equal to 0, right? It's exactly where that line crosses the y-intercept. But let's say it wasn't on there. Let's say it was further down somewhere on your graph. How do I get that y-intercept? You go to second, trace, value, which is the first option there. And again, that's where x is equal to 0, and we click on 0 and hit enter. Now for those of you who are used to using Desmos, you just click on that point, and it gives you the point right away. But we're using these graphing calculators in this course, so this is how you do that in this calculator. Now once you've found 1, so it's at y equals 4, we can go ahead and put that on our graph. So I have no data points on here yet, so we can, that's at y equals 4. So I'll put that point there and I'll label it 4. Remembering that this is your x and this is your y, it's always a good idea to label your axes. Go back to your calculator. Once you've found the first one, you just have to arrow down. It'll jump right to the next one. If you want practice, you could go ahead and go through that whole step again, second trace. Just make sure you're on the line that you want to be on. And here we can see it's 1.5. And we're happy because those match our 4 and our 1.5 or 3 halves from our equation. So if you have that in the y equals mx plus b format, you can actually jump right to plotting those on your axes right from the start. Whatever method, it's up to you. Sometimes it's easier to recognize than others. So 1.5 is the other y-intercept, halfway between 1 and 2. So I'll label that as 1.5 here. Okay. So now let's get our x-intercepts, not as intuitive in the calculator, and you can't see it as easily from your equations either. So if we go down here, again, the instructions moving left and moving right of that x-intercept. So let's see how we do that on the graphing calculator. So I'm going to go back to equation 1, go back into the second trace, which is actually your calc menu here. And now the calculator calls your x-intercepts the zeros, and we'll actually use that name when we learn quadratics as well. So let's go down to 2, or you can even push the button 2, and it's going to say left bound. So what the calculator is asking you to do is actually use the arrow keys to move the cursor to the left of the x-intercept. So I can see the x-intercept is right here. It's where the line crosses the x-axis. It's where y is equal to 0. So we're going to move our cursor to the left, anywhere left, all the way left, a little bit left, as long as it's to the left, and hit enter. And you'll see there's this arrow up here that appears to the left. Then it says right bound. Same thing, move to the right. How far, doesn't matter. Hit enter. Now these 2 arrows are on either side. If you look in between, your x-intercept should be sitting in between those 2 arrows. It'll say guess, you hit enter again, and there it is, your x-intercept is at -4 and y equals 0. We can go ahead and label that on our graph. So there's -4 right there. And then going back, it'd be nice to just move up and down, but we can't do that, so we go second, trace, go back to 0. But you'll see I'm on the wrong graph, so I'm going to click down first of all. Now I'm on the right graph. Go left bound of this line's x-intercept. Click enter. Move to the right of it, enter, click enter again, and there it is at -3 and 0. So at this point you're going to take out your ruler or straight edge and connect those 2 points. So as you can see, I've drawn my lines. This would be my equation 1, and this would be my equation 2. Not a bad idea to label those so you can keep track of where they are. Also recognize that when you're drawing those lines, you have arrows at the ends. You want to draw them long enough so you can see this point of intersection. So remember, what we're doing here is we're solving the system of linear equations. And when we say the word solve, what we're actually saying is find that point of intersection, right? Find that. We can write that in here. Find the point of intersection. Okay. So we've done step 2. We've graphed our lines. We've used step 3's information to label those points on our graph. And now, moving on to step 4, locate the point of intersection, which we've done visually on the graph, but we actually need to find what that ordered pair is so we can state our solution at the end. So we're going to follow the steps on our graphing calculators again. At this point, we're going to go back into that menu, second trace, but number 5 here is your intersect, so click on 5. Now it's going to ask you, are you on your first curve? Yes, I can see up here I'm on line 1. Are you on your second curve? Yes, I'm on line 2. It'll say yes, sure, and then you've got the intersection there at -5 and -1. So I'll put that here. -5 is my x value, -1 is my y value. That is my solution, and we'll go ahead and label that point. It says locate the point of intersection, but we want to actually label that as well. So let's say label and locate, or locate and label. So put that here. That point is at -5, -1. Okay, so just to review, step 1, look at your equations. Make sure you isolate y. If it's not already isolated, do that. So then you can do step 2 and graph your 2 equations. Moving on to step 3, finding your x and y intercepts and putting them on your graph with the labels. Once you have that, you can see where those 2 lines meet. That is your solution, that point of intersection at step 4, and then state your solution at the end. Thank you for joining me today.